Hey, what's up, everybody? If you appreciate the format and you appreciate what we're doing here, then make sure you contribute to the Cash App, make sure you contribute to the PayPal, make sure you donate to the Super Chat. It's only you and your contributions that keep this thing going. Thanks.
We're the same people that came from the bottom up out of slavery to build all these cities around this country. We are the ones who set the trends in this world. And this is what we've come to. And the question that I have for you is, why? But moreover, it's the thing that gives me hope about what we can, because I've seen what we were in my lifetime. So without further ado, I'd like to introduce you all to Kimberly, Dr. Turner, Demetria, and Merriman. Ladies, thank you so much for coming tonight.
We are giving criminals too many passes, I think, in the United States when it comes to us just taking simple verbal commands. All she had to do was go out of attack mode. But once again, nowadays you have young ladies and older women who behave like men. So she's thinking that she's just going to come out welding and doing everything she needs to do, and it's going to be okay. So then she can go back and brag to her friends, look what she did, X, Y, and Z on social media. I think it have a lot to do with social media, poor parenting, and poor understanding. And
that's pretty harsh. I ain't say it. I wouldn't even go that far at this point, but you said it. The question that I have for you is, what would have happened, or what would, because everybody else is saying, oh no, the cop did wrong. What do you think would have happened if instead of Makai, it was Lil Mikey, and Lil Mikey was trying to stab a black girl? What would the response be from the community?
Dramatization.
After a car wreck, you may have to fight with a highly trained insurance company rep whose job is to knock your damaged claim down and out. It's a bad idea to enter the ring alone against a trained boxer, and it could be a bad idea to fight against a big insurance company by yourself. When the bell rings, attorney Dennis Sperling will be there to fight for your rights. If you've been seriously injured in a car wreck, call me, attorney Dennis Sperling, at 866-529-2444. That's 866-529-2444.
And that's it, and that's that. I don't care if you don't like me. See, I'm very passionate about this because we are essential in the problems of the breakdown of our community, the women. But yet we want to boast about how we're these boss, and please excuse my language, how we're these boss bitches who are running things. We're not running anything. We are not equipped to do that. Mm-hmm. Step back, be quiet, and stop effeminating these little men. Stop calling our sons mommy's little man, and get out of the way. And then when you get 50, my age, 51, 52, you're alone. You're alone because of what you did in the past. Yeah. You should have never invited me to the show today, Bennett.
No, you good. I want to hear you. I know the people in the audience, like, he ain't interrupting them at all. He letting them speak. I want to hear what you have to say. It's one thing for me to say things. It's another thing for Black women to address other Black women. You all need a voice.
I am very, very upset that we as women, and especially in Gen X, do not take accountability for what we have done.
What are your thoughts? What's your first impression of this whole situation, Doctor?
My first impression of the entire situation is it's the same battle group that we tend to run against, the Bonnet Bettys and the battling BWs of the world. Because I think this is where the majority of the comments are coming from, a collection of women who, once again, do not want to be told, our shortcomings. And I've talked about that before. I think the way we dress in public, the way we speak as ladies is despicable. You know, I think the way we present ourselves is despicable. And then we have the same nerve to, in the same breath, to say we want respect from people.
Hey, what's up, everybody? If you appreciate the format and you appreciate what we're doing here, then make sure you contribute to the Cash App, make sure you contribute to the PayPal, make sure you donate to the Super Chat. It's only you and your contributions that keep this thing going. Thanks.
If you're in this type of community that she describes with savage behavior and you get out, is that a generation lost? And we want to make it clear, we're not talking about all black people. We're just talking about these people who acted an ass on the video. Are we talking about a generation lost, Dennis?
Isaiah, I hate to say it, but unfortunately, yes, there's nothing you can do about it. Now, I hate, it hurts my heart to say that, but you know, when we have a lot of our black American women who say black men don't protect us, this is why. This is why we don't protect you. This is because we could lose our lives trying to protect you, especially when you're wrong. See, a lot of black women, they don't want men to protect them. They want men to come in and be their retaliation force. This is what happens. Two black men are gonna lose their lives. The man that allegedly shot him and the man that already is dead. That one is probably gonna get 100 years to life, 100 years, and the other one is gonna get the death penalty. So we have a toxic culture in the black community that needs to be flushed out. That's the problem. And it doesn't matter how much police work we do, how many legislative bills we come up with, until we begin to correct ourselves as people, we're still going to go down this be the toilet of society.
The only thing I ask you guys to do is know what your options are. That's it. I just want you to know that you have options. The other thing is, I try to explain to you guys, is that you should travel. What do I mean by travel? What I mean is you should leave the United States. I don't mean just going from Alabama to Georgia for spring break. What I mean is you should travel. You should go overseas. You should see what it's like living in other places, even if it's just for a week visit. And when you go places like Brazil, when you go places like the Dominican Republic, when you go places, I'm sure Africa is the same way, what you'll experience is the way black men are treated, the way you're embraced.
And, you know, one lives with that, man. So, yeah, if anything I can say, man, is that the South keeps you sober as a black man. It keeps you from running away with kind of, you know, utopian, fantastical ideas about the world. Yeah.
Explain to them what it's like as a black man. When you say sobering, you walk into a store, you walk into a party, a club. Is this even heard of? You walk into an all-white club, you're the only black man there, and do you just immediately start flirting with white women? It's not good. Well, before you
but there's still whites in this society, white men and women who are very resistant to black men. You know what I mean? And those type of interactions, bro. And they feel some kind of way about it.
To have conversations with people and to basically let people know the issues that black men face and what we're going through, and to hear it directly from us, unfiltered, if you will. And so at this point, I think the most important thing for us to determine is whether or not the people who we want to hear us the most are actually listening. And despite what these brothers say, when I listen to them, and I'm talking about the thousands and thousands of conversations and exchanges I've had with black men over the last 11 years. It is 11 years since 2009. A lot of them really just want to be heard, and they really want to be heard by black women. They are not necessarily concerned about what other people think. They want their sisters, their mothers, their wives, their girlfriends, their daughters to hear them.
My name is Dennis Sperling. If you've been involved in an accident, call me and I'll fight for you. I'm not an actor or a celebrity spokesperson. I'm a real trial lawyer, and I'll appear before real judges and real juries on behalf of people with serious injuries. So when I say I'll fight for you, I mean it, and I'll back it up. If you've been hurt in an automobile or 18-wheeler accident, contact me toll free at 866-529-2444, and I'll fight for your rights.
Hi, my name is Dennis Sperling. I'm not a lawyer, but my daddy is. Yeah. If you've been hurt in a car accident, call my daddy. No need to scream and yell like a little kid. Yeah, no, right. My daddy will fight for your rights. Yeah, fight for your rights. If you've been involved in a car accident, call my daddy, returning Dennis Sperling.
Hello, I'm attorney Dennis Sperling. If you've been injured in a car wreck, call me at 713-229-0770.
Call my daddy.
I know you can kind of relate a little bit, because they are women, but like, talk to us, Judge, because the fellas want to know. The fellas need to know. We all need to know. Go ahead.
See, I can't relate to that at all because I think that both parents should take care of their kids, period. So when I come across a female that has to pay child support and she's been out of shape about it or something like that, as in terms of me representing them, and they've been out of shape about them, I'm very honest. If anybody in the chat knows me or anybody watching this, they could tell you. I tell her like it is. Look, you need to get over yourself. Because if the roles were reversed, he would have to pay and you wouldn't have an issue with it. At the end of the day, this is what the situation is. This child lives with him. You need to get over it. The interesting part about the show is that, the show, it's reenacting cases that have actually happened. But a lot of the things that you all are seeing with the reenacting are true feelings of how some of these people thought that Texas law worked. So when they get the response back from me based on Texas law, after it, they're like, man, I didn't know it went like that. Because in certain situations, if you're not going to do right by the child in all facets, that is in terms of their education, in terms of their health, in terms of the psychological needs when it comes to them spending time with their other parent, having a relationship with their other parent, because parental alienation is big too, right? Where, turning a child against one parent, all of that kind of stuff. If you're not going to do right in all facets when it comes to the child, let that child go live with its other parent.
What's up, you guys? This is Dennis Sperling, and I'm back again. And as you guys requested, we are doing Black American military men. We're doing Vietnam War heroes. And here's the thing. There has been a drought in Black masculinity. Oftentimes, we as Black men are given people who are speakers, poets, actors, football players. We're giving these people to look up to. Never, ever do they give us the warriors among us to look up to. And if they, on occasion, they'll do a TV show about a Shaka Zulu, a great warrior from the past like that, or we'll talk about Hannibal, you know, great African warrior. And we have much respect for our African brothers who were leaders of great militaries. We get that. But what I want to do is begin to talk about Black American men, Black American war heroes, men who laid it all out on the line, men who some of us may be related to. And I want to start with the Vietnam War. Why? Because these men were our fathers and our uncles. And for some of you, this is your grandfathers, but these are people that you can reach out and touch. And I want you to know how they conducted themselves and how valiant they were in the war that they fought. You know, these are great American war fighters that we're going to talk about. And I think it's very important because we as Black men, we're missing that warrior mentality. We're missing that warrior culture that has been part of the African tradition for thousands of years. And I believe it's something that we need to reinstitute. I think that if we can replace the simp culture with the warrior culture, if we can replace the player culture with the fighting man's culture, things will be a lot better for us. And there's a reason why our war heroes are often buried in little underfunded hotel memorial sort of places. Oftentimes, you'll have a Black man and they'll actually change his color online. And so you think this is some white guy. So that's not what we're going to do. Today, we're going to talk about the valiant leadership. We're going to talk about these great Black war heroes from Vietnam. This is in the 1960s and 70s. Some of you all were born at that time. Some of these people, some of you all may know, they might be from your town, your neighborhood. And I think this is very important. This is part one of it. And again, you guys asked for this. You specifically asked for me to talk about military men, Black American military war heroes. And that's what I want to talk about. And that's what we're going to talk about this evening. And so before we get started, I want to just acknowledge all of my members. Shout out to JJ Diesel, Cowboy Monk. I appreciate you. I don't expect there to be a lot of people here tonight because this is never a subject that interests brothers. Y'all like it when I talk, talk about the latest issues. You want me to talk about Dr. Dre's daughter. You know, maybe you want me to talk about what's going on between this person and that person. But see, this is food right here. This is Black masculinity that I want to talk about. And I think this is probably one of the most important subjects that we discuss, what Black men have done, what they've accomplished. Because see, there's always people who tell you Black men don't do this. Black men don't build. You know, I had a brother come on about a month and a half ago. He said all that Black men did, Black people in the United States did, was beg, and white people gave them everything they wanted from begging. They never mentioned the fact that we fought in all the wars that this country is prosecuting. They never mentioned that fact because we don't even know that history. That's something you should throw up in everybody's face when they talk to you. Who has more Medal of Honor winners out of every other minority group? I think we got more Medal of Honor winners than white folks per capita. In other words, if it's only 6 million, 10 million Black men, or at that time, if it's only 20 million Black men in America, and we have all these Medal of Honor winners and all these valiant fighters that have been chronicled, their deeds have been, that means we are the hardest fighting people in this country. Not only just among the minorities, but we're right up there with the white folks who make up the bulk of the United States military service personnel. So that's something that we need to look at. This is something we need to examine. On top of that, we need to remember these Black men and their names, and we need to see their faces. If you look at the photos that I have, that is all of those men that we're going to talk about tonight. Sergeant First Class Webster Anderson, Sergeant First Class Eugene Ashley Jr., Sergeant First Class William Maud Bryant, Sergeant First Class Lawrence Joel, These are all valiant men. These are all fighting men. These are our black brothers. These are our black fathers and uncles and grandfathers. If you appreciate this, man, make sure you hit the number 1 button. Let's go ahead and get this thing started. So without further ado, let's talk about what these valiant men had to deal with. First of all, as you guys remember, we discussed racism, and we discussed what the brothers had to deal with back in, Revolutionary War, Civil War, all these different things. We discussed all that, and as you guys know, it wasn't easy for them. They had to deal with, not only did they have to deal with racism at home, but they also had to deal with bigotry and racism in the military. It wasn't until Dwight D. Eisenhower integrated the military that things began to change. Before that, it was a segregated military, and that was and so the Korean War was the first time that you had integrated troops fighting. And so before that, it was hell. Brothers were left relegated to mopping up and cleaning. Every now and then they'd let us get out there and show what we can do. And when we did, we showed out. But the bottom line is, now we're in the Vietnam era, and this is important. So I want you guys to just kick back. This is, as I said, Sergeant First Class Webster Anderson. And any of you veterans who want to come in, if you got notes you want me to bring up, anything I might have missed, let me know. This is for you guys. And make sure if you appreciate this, you contribute to the Super Chat, the Cash App, and the PayPal. I do not expect many people to be here tonight. This is solely a labor of love because I want these Black American war fighters to be remembered. This is an element of Black masculinity, that warrior culture that is the center of Black masculinity. This is something we need to talk about. But anyway, Webster Anderson was born July 15, 1933, on August 30th, 2003, and he died on August 30th, 2003. He was a United States Army soldier and a recipient of America's highest military decoration, the Medal of Honor, for his actions in Vietnam. And when you guys hear what he did, you're going to be like, wow. Anderson joined the Army from his birth city in Winsboro, South Carolina in 1953 and served during the Korean War. And by October 15, 1967, was serving as a staff sergeant in the Battery A, 2nd Battalion, 320th Artillery Regiment, 101st Airborne Division, Infantry Division in Air Mobile. That's the same infantry that my uncle served in. On that day, Anderson's artillery unit was attacked by North Vietnamese forces near Tam Kỳ in the Republic of Vietnam. Anderson directed the defense of the unit's position and continued to lead after twice being severely wounded, despite losing both legs and part of an arm. And he survived his wounds and was promoted to rank of sergeant, first class, before being retired. See, the story is what's happening. See, they're not telling you. They kind of glanced over the story. Basically, they were attacked at 3 o'clock in the morning. He jumped on the big guns and he started shooting the enemy. They then threw some sort of bomb, a grenade or something at him, took both of his legs off. But instead of being evacuated back for a hospital evacuate, he got back on the gun, went back up there, kept shooting. And then guess what happened? Somebody threw another grenade at him. He then picked the grenade up and tried to throw it away, couldn't get it away, blew his arm off. And he still kept firing until they beat the enemy back. So he's got hit in both legs and an arm, and he's still manning the big gun. Here's a story, and I want you guys to understand. This is how dedicated this man was to the fight. And see, a lot of you guys, man, and I've talked to a lot of military guys. What they'll tell you, man, it's about the guy next to me. It's about the man standing next to me. That's why I'm not going to break and run, because I know if I leave him, he's going to be here by himself. And that's just one less man. So imagine him ignoring his own personal pain. He might have died, but he was going to keep manning that gun because his men needed it. Let's read about it. Anderson distinguished himself by conspicuous gallantry and intrepidly in action while serving as chief of section in Battery A against a hostile force. During the early morning hours, Battery A's defensive position was attacked by a determined North Vietnamese Army infantry unit supported by heavy mortar rifle, rocket propelled grenades, and automatic weapons. The thing you got to understand about the Vietnamese war is they were fighting North Vietnamese regulars. They were fighting irregulars, which is basically like peasants with wraps around their heads. And, you know, they were, so this is what they say. They're distinguishing between the North Vietnamese army and the ragtag peasants. They had a real army over there. When they show you those Vietnam movies, they make you think like it was a bunch of people who were walking around with rags on their heads and AK-47s. No, they had real army supplies coming from China and other countries who were on the side of Vietnam, right? Remember, this whole thing was to stop the movement of communism, you know, into Southeast Asia. That's why we went to Vietnam. We wanted to shut down the communists, you know, moving into South Vietnam. And so that's why they were supplied by the Russians and all those other folks. But the initial enemy onslaught breached the battery defensive perimeter. SF Anderson, Sergeant First Class Anderson, with complete disregard for his personal safety, mounted the exposed parapet of his howitzer position and became the mainstay of the defense of the battery position. Now, I talked to my uncle about this, and what he would tell me is that he had the radio, he was a radio operator, and then they would rotate the big gun. I guess it's like this machine gun or something like that. They would rotate the big gun, and the first person that the enemy would shoot after would be the person with the radio and the person with the big gun. So on those days when he had to have the big gun, he said he would hold it down like he was holding the rifle so they wouldn't be able to tell. He said it was a lot heavier, but he said that was the way he camouflaged himself to the enemy. So the fact that this Sergeant Anderson, if they're saying he was the mainstay of the defense of the battery position, what that means is all guns were on him, and he was manning this howitzer. And let me pull up. Let me see if I can let you guys see what a howitzer looks like, because I want you guys to see what this looks like. This is important, so you can kind of know what we're talking about. What a howitzer is. It's a big gun. Okay, they call it a gun. They call it a cannon. So this is a howitzer right here, right? This is what he was the mainstay. Let's continue. And it was exposed, right? And you military guys, make sure I'm correct here. This is an Army howitzer. That's a tank, actually. And so make sure I'm on point here. I want you guys I want to make sure this is as exact as possible. I don't want to miss anything. And the reason that there's like 24 of these guys, and I wanted to be able to talk about each one of them individually. And so that's why I wanted to kind of tell this story. But again, this is Webster Anderson, Sergeant First Class Webster Anderson. And so, okay, so Sergeant First Class Anderson directed devastating fire and assaulting enemy while providing rifle and grenade defensive fire against enemy. So he was throwing grenades, he was shooting his own rifle, and he was directing the howitzer against enemy soldier, and he didn't have any cover, attempting to overrun his gun section position while protecting his crew and directing their fire against the enemy from his exposed position. 2 enemy grenades exploded at his feet, knocking him down and severely wounding him in his legs. So now he got his legs taken out from up under him. Okay, despite the excruciating pain, and though not able to stand, so he can't even stand anymore. His legs are gone. Right, Sergeant First Class Anderson valorously propped himself up on the parapet, right, and continued to direct the howitzer fire upon the closing enemy. So he's bleeding. He can't stand up. This man he probably look, I'm going to die, but I'm not going to die before I kill that SOB over there, because I got to protect my men. I got to keep, I'm in the fight. He never gave up the fight. This is the essence of a warrior spirit. This is what I'm talking about, you guys, not quitting. This is what I'm talking about, right? These are the heroes that we have, brothers. This is the hair. And this man was born in 1933. This could be very well be your father or your grandfather, depending on your age, or your uncle. This is who we came from in South Carolina. I know it's a lot of tough, hard fighters out of South Carolina. I've noticed that since I've been doing the research on this. A lot of good military men come out of South Carolina. A lot of good black military men. Seeing an enemy grenade. Okay, so check this out, right? So he's back in it, right? Legs bleeding, can't stand up. seeing an enemy grenade land within the gun pit near a wounded member of his gun crew. Sergeant First Class Anderson, heedless of his own safety, seized the grenade and attempted to throw it over the parapet to save his men. So he saw a grenade about to blow up one of his guys. He picked the damn grenade up with his hand and threw it away, blew his hand off. As the grenade was thrown from his position, it exploded, and Sergeant First Class Anderson was again grievously wounded. Although only partially conscious and severely wounded, Sergeant First Class Anderson refused medical evacuation. So he done lost his legs, he's lost his arm, okay? And he still refused to let them take him out of there. He refused medical evacuation. I'm gonna die right here, basically, right? Sergeant, and he refused medical evacuation and continued to encourage his men in the defense of the position. Sergeant First Class Anderson, by his own inspirational leadership, professionalism, devotion to duty, and complete disregard for his own welfare, was able to maintain the defense of his section, position, and defeat a determined attack. He stayed in the fight, got his legs blown off, got his arm blown off. He stayed in the fight, and he beat the enemy, beat him back, refused to be evacuated. How many of y'all missing 2 legs and an arm would have stayed in the fight? That's what I want to know. See, this is a warrior right here. This is a warrior. Anderson's gallantry and extraordinary heroism at the risk of his life above and beyond the call of duty are the highest traditions of the military service and reflect great credit upon himself, his unit, and the U.S. Army. Oh, man. And so he died at 70 years old of natural causes. And so he actually survived. I got another picture of him here. And this kind of talks about him. This is him. This is Sergeant Anderson, Staff Sergeant Anderson right here, man. And so that's him. So I'm going to dedicate that reading. Thank you, Rock One, DJ Twice, and also Kenneth Williams. I'm going to dedicate the memory. This is dedicated to the memory of Sergeant. Thank you so much. It's because of Rock One, DJ Twice, and Kenneth that we are able to do this, because I know it's not going to be. It's only got 30 people in here, man. This is something that all Black men need. You need to hear about your Black heroes like this. We need to hear about these men, man. This should be inspirational to every Black man. But I want to just, if the family of Sergeant Anderson is looking at this, hopefully the brothers will be inspired by this and see this is just one of many to come. But we appreciate this. This is inspirational. Next up, I want to talk about Eugene Ashley Jr. This is another brother from the Vietnam War, right? And his name is Eugene Ashley Jr. He was a Sergeant First Class. He was killed in action on February 7, 1968. He was born October 12, 1930. So again, this is somebody who could have been your uncle or your grandfather. This is who we're dealing with here. He was a United States Army Special Forces soldier. So he's Special Forces. This is what we had back in the 1960s. When they tell you Black men wasn't doing nothing, this was a Special Forces guy right here. 38 years old at the time. Soldier and recipient of America's highest military decoration. They don't just give these out. Hey guys, anybody who's been in any of my military guys, they don't just give out medals of honor, do they? They don't just get that away. They don't get that away. This Black man earned that. Ashley joined the Army in 1950. He was 20 years old and took part in the Korean War. And after being deployed to Vietnam, Ashley took part in the Battle of Lang V, where he led an assault. He led an assault force to rescue encircled American forces. So he was going in to rescue his brothers in arms. He tried on 5 attempts, and on the 5th attempt was mortally wounded by a shell. He was awarded the Medal of Honor posthumously. So he's going in to save somebody else's life. This is what Sergeant Ashley was doing, going in to save somebody else's life. Sergeant Ashley was born in Wilmington, North Carolina. Again, them Carolinas, man. Shout out to South Carolina, North Carolina. Y'all got some serious soldiers out there. When I look through all of these, I'm like, man, a lot of these black men are from the Carolinas. A lot of these valiant, hard-fighting black men are from Carolina. I just find that interesting. Well, he was born in Wilmington, North Carolina on October 12, 1930, in Eugene Ashley Sr. and Cornelia Ashley. He had a sister named Gertrude Ashley. Not long after his birth, his family moved to New York City, where Eugene Jr. attended Alexander Hamilton High School. Ashley joined the Army from the New York City. He joined the Army from New York City in December 1950, and he served in the Korean War. By February 6, 1968, he was serving as Sergeant First Class in Company C of the 5th Special Forces Group, Airborne, which means he jumps out of planes. 1st Special Forces in Vietnam. On that day, Ashley led an assault force in an attempt to rescue American troops trapped by North Vietnamese infantry and tanks during the Battle of Liang. He led several assaults against the enemy and was mortally wounded by his 5th and last attempt to reach the American forces. He was subsequently rewarded the Medal of Honor for his actions during the battle. Eugene's body was returned to the United States and buried in Rockfish Memorial Park in Fayetteville, North Carolina. Eugene Ashley High School in Wilmington, North Carolina was named after. Here's another thing you got to understand. Any one of these guys, I've yet to see one Medal of Honor winner who didn't have a school or a bust or a statue or something dedicated to him. These black men, sometimes you wouldn't even know Eugene Ashley, who is this guy, right? You think it's some old white dude, right? This is a black man that this is named after. Sergeant Ashley's medal was posthumously awarded to his family at the White House by Vice President Spiro Agnew on December 2nd, 1969. His official Medal of Honor citation reads, this is basically saying what happened. So let's check this story out, right? Listen to the valor, right? And shout out to Toot Rev 211. Again, you guys, I only expect there to be about 30 people here. The brothers, y'all like the messy stuff. You know what I mean? Y'all, but this is food for you. This lets you know who you are. Sergeant First Class Ashley distinguished himself by conspicuous gallantry and intrepidity while serving with Detachment A-101 Company C. Sergeant First Class Ashley was a senior Special Forces advisor of a hastily organized assault force whose mission was to rescue and trap U.S. Special Forces advisors at Camp Lang Vay during the initial attack on the Special Forces camp by North Vietnamese Army forces. Sergeant Ashley supported the camp with high explosive illumination and mortar rounds. When communications were lost with the main camp, he assumed the additional responsibility of directing airstrikes and artillery support. So he's calling the shots. He's bringing in air. He's got people around him. He's directed. This is what this man is doing under pressure. Sergeant First Class Ashley organized and equipped a small assault force composed of local friendly personnel. In other words, you got some local South Vietnamese assistants and you got your guy. This is what he did. During the ensuing battle, Sergeant First Class Ashley led a total of 5 vigorous assaults against the enemy, continuously exposing himself to voluminous hails of enemy grenades, machine gun fire, automatic weapons fire. Basically, man, this man is running into the lion's mouth to try to save some other Americans who are trapped. That's what this black man is doing. That's what this soldier is doing. Think about that. Think about the courage of that, the intensity of it. Throughout these assaults, he was plagued by numerous booby trap, satchel charges, and all bunkers on his avenue approach. During his 5th and final assault, he adjusted airstrikes nearly on top of his assault element, forcing enemy to withdraw, resulting in friendly control of summit of the hill. While exposing himself to intense enemy fire, he was seriously wounded by machine gun fire, but continued his mission without regard for his personal safety. After the 5th assault, he lost consciousness and was carried from the summit by his comrades, only to suffer a fatal wound when an enemy artillery round landed in the area. So they evacuated him, and basically it exploded and killed him. I guess it knocked him off his stretcher or something like that. Sergeant First Class Ashley displayed extraordinary heroism in risking his life in an attempt to save the lives of entrapped comrades and commanding officers. He totally disregarded his own personnel while exposed to the enemy. Observation and automatic weapons fire was inspiration to all men committed to the assault. In other words, if Sarge is going in, I'm going in too. That's the mentality that they had. Sarge is going in, I'm going in too. So his men were following him in the battle. They weren't going to be the one that left their leader, behind, let him go forward. They fought, they went in behind him, and they were able to save those other American soldiers. The resolute valor with which he led 5 gallant charges placed critical diversionary pressure on the attacking enemy, and his valiant efforts carved a channel in the overpowering enemy forces and weapons position through which the survivors of Camp Lane eventually escaped to freedom. So he basically sacrificed himself. He made a diversion, and it allowed those other guys to escape. This is Eugene Ashley right here, you guys. This is him, just so you can get a look at the brother from Wilmington, North Carolina. So this is who you come from, brothers. This is the type of warrior blood you have in you. So let's put a number one up for all these, for the veterans so far, for Webster, Sergeant Webster Anderson and Sergeant Eugene Ashley Jr. He died in combat. He was killed in actions. So next up, I want to talk about William Maud Bryant. Okay, I want you to hear a little bit about him. He's from Cochran, Georgia. So still, we got that Atlanta, we got that mid-Atlantic belt going on over there. Some about North Carolina and South Carolina. Now we in Georgia. But this is William Boyd Bryant. He was born February 16, 1933, and he died on March 24 of 1969. He, too, was killed in action. He was a United States Army Special Forces soldier and recipient of America's highest military decoration, the Medal of Honor, for his actions in Vietnam. Bryant joined the Army from Detroit, Michigan in 1953. Shout out to Motown. By March 24 of 1969, he was serving as a sergeant first class in the company of a 5th Special Forces Group, 1st Special Forces on that day, in Long Cang Province, Republic of Vietnam. Bryant led a company of South Vietnamese CIDG troops during an intense attack by North Vietnamese forces until being fatally wounded by enemy fire. For his actions during the battle, Bryant was awarded the Medal of Honor in 1971. William Bryant's body was returned to the United States and buried in Raleigh National Cemetery in Raleigh, North Carolina. So let's read about what Sergeant Bryant did. For conspicuous gallantry and intrepidity in action at risk of his own life above and beyond the call of duty, Sergeant First Class Bryant, assigned to Company A, distinguished himself by serving as commanding officer of a civilian irregular group. Basically, think about this. You got a bunch of South Vietnamese irregular guys, basically, and you're commanding them. This is, imagine, I mean, you got English, you got language barriers, but he look what he did with it. The battalion came under heavy fire and became surrounded by elements of 3 enemy regiments. The Sergeant Bryant displayed extraordinary heroism throughout the succeeding 34 hours of incessant attack as he moved throughout the company position, heedless of the intense hostile fire, while establishing and improving the defensive perimeter, directing fire under critical phases of battle, distributing ammunition, assisting the wounded, and providing the leadership and inspirational example of courage to his men. So they're getting shot at for 34 hours straight. He's moving for 34 hours. You do this, you do that, guns, bullets, bombs still bursting, coming at him. This is what this black man did for 34 hours straight. Look what he did. This is your black brother right there. He's your uncle. He's your father. That's your grandfather for some of y'all. That's what he did, man. During the lull in the intense fighting, Sergeant First Class Bryant led a patrol outside the perimeter to obtain information of the enemy. The patrol came under intense automatic weapons fire and was pinned down. Sergeant First Class Bryant single-handedly repulsed one enemy attack on his small force, and by his heroic action, inspired his men to fight off all other assaults. In other words, they ran up and he was the first one in the fight. That's what the sergeant did. He led from the front. You got to respect somebody that leads from the front. See, a lot of people that tell you what to do, but they won't do it. I'm the type of person, I lead from the front. Anything I ask anybody to do, I've already done it myself. That's what leading from the front is. See, cowards lead from the back. Cowards will try to hold you back. Cowards will try to tell you what you shouldn't do or what you ain't. With soldiers, that warrior spirit that I tell you got, they lead from the front. And I appreciate this, man. This is a great story. Let's continue reading. Seeing a wounded enemy soldier some distance from the patrol location, Sergeant First Class Bryant crawled forward alone under heavy fire to retrieve the soldier for intelligence purposes. Finding the enemy soldier had expired, Sergeant First Class Bryant crawled back to his patrol and led his men back to the company position where he again took command of the defense. As the siege continued, Sergeant First Class Bryant organized and led patrol in a daring attempt to break through the enemy encirclement. They were surrounded by the enemies. They had it was 34 hours. They could have just gave up and quit. They just could have put the white flag in there, gave up and died, right? They could have, but they didn't. What did he do? He kept fighting. He stayed in the fight. The fight wasn't over. Bryant was, okay, so the patrol had advanced some 200 meters by heavy fighting when it was pinned down by an intense automatic weapons fire from heavily fortified bunkers, and Sergeant First Class Bryant was severely wounded. Despite his wounds, he rallied his men, called for a helicopter gunship support, and directed heavy suppressive fire upon the enemy's position. Following the last gunship attack, Sergeant First Class Bryant fearlessly charged an enemy automatic weapons position, overrunning it and single-handedly destroying 3 defenders. Do you hear what this black man did? This black man rushed the machine gun and killed 3 enemies who were there waiting. This is what he did by himself. He destroyed 3 defenders single-handedly. This is what this black man did. I want you to look at him again. This is him. This is what this black soldier did. This is what the sergeant did it. Those are the type of leaders that you come from, brothers. Inspired by his heroic example, his men renewed their attack on the entrenched enemy while regrouping his small force for his final assault against the enemy. Sergeant, and mind you, he's wounded this whole time, right? Sergeant First Class Bryant fell mortally wounded by an enemy rocket. Sergeant Bryant's selfless concern for his comrades at the cost of his life above and beyond the call of duty are in keeping with the highest traditions of the military service, reflect great credit upon himself, his unit, and the United States Army. Look at that, man. This is what this black man did. Let's take another look at him. Sergeant First Class William M. Bryant. Look at that black man. Medal of Honor. You can't tell me we don't have black heroes. When they start telling you what the baby boomers didn't do, the generation before, this is what they did. They fought that war. Matter of fact, the generation before that, this man fought in 2 wars. This is what we deal with. This is the gallantry and the dignity by which and the honor by which this man conducted. He wouldn't leave his people behind. This is a war fighter right here. This is who you come from. Remember this name. Let's move on. Now I like this one too. This is Lawrence Joel. He was born in 1928, and he passed away on February 4th, 1984. Clearly, he wasn't killed in action. But he was a United States Army soldier who served in Korean and the Vietnam War while serving in South Vietnam as a medic. Now, I want you to listen to this, right? Medics usually have guns, but they're not out there shooting at folk. They're over there grabbing people and trying to save lives. What the medic getting hold of you in time is going to determine whether you live or die. You bleed out, and so his job is he is held in high regard. And you got to have an inordinate amount of bravery to be out in the war zone with no gun. So I want you to pay close attention to what Sergeant First Class Lawrence Joel did, right? So, and if you guys appreciate this, man, make sure you hit the #1 button and make sure you contribute to the Super Chat, the Cash App, and the PayPal. I do not expect many people to be in here tonight, but this is Black masculinity at its essence. Thank you so much, Chocho. This is Black masculinity. This is what we need to be talking about in Black History Month. This needs to be everyday Black man history. I'm surprised we always laugh and talk about the military and all that. But at the end of the day, it's the fact that we have this military and these teeth and these fangs that keep everybody else up off us. You may not like the United States, but we are a warlike country and don't nobody want no smoke. That's why we haven't been invaded. The last people that tried to invade us, we rolled them up and got them up out of here and took half their country, i.e. Mexico. That's what that was. I know y'all don't like that either. I get it. But anyway, bottom line is you live here now. You see what I mean? And they see all of us as Americans. So we need to, especially Black men, we need to support our Black American military men because they're war fighters. And they got to you need to harness that warrior mentality. You need to know what it's like to be a leader and a soldier. And these stories are inspirational to me. But let's talk about Sergeant Joel. He was born February 22nd, 1928. Again, North Carolina. we got another one from North Carolina again. Was a United States Army soldier who served in the Korean and the Vietnam Wars. While serving in South Vietnam as a medic with rank of Specialist 5, assigned the 1st Battalion of the 503rd Infantry and the 173rd Airborne Brigade. Sergeant Joel received the Silver Star and the Medal of Honor for his heroism in battle with the Viet Cong. All right, that occurred on November 8th, 1965. He was the first medic to earn the Medal of Honor during the Vietnam War and was the first living Black American to receive this medal since the Spanish-American War in 1968. Childhood. Joel was born in Winston-Salem, North Carolina, the third of 16 children. Due to extreme poverty in his family, from the age of 8 to 18, Joel was raised by a neighboring family, the Samuels. Joel attended city public schools, including Atkins High School, and joined the Merchant Marine for 1 year in 1946. At age 18, Joel decided to join the United States Army, making it a career out of, and he enlisted in New York City. Remember, at that time, a lot of Black folks had migrated to New York. They had got up out of the South. There was too much racism and all that stuff. So when you see them being born in South Carolina in the 1920s and 30s, that was at the time, I believe, the second migration. And they went from like South Carolina, North Carolina, Mississippi, and they went up to Detroit, Chicago, New York, Baltimore, Philadelphia. They left the South to get out of there. So even though they're from there, they would go somewhere else just for a better life. So, but it wasn't a whole lot of jobs. It wasn't a lot of opportunity. But either way, so this is Sergeant Joel and the president at the time, Lyndon B. Johnson. He came in after Kennedy. On November 8, 1965, then Specialist 5 Lawrence. And anybody who wants to join in, I'd love to have you guys join in. What are your thoughts on this series? Is this inspirational to you? You know, I've never heard anything like this put together where we just talk about Black American military men. You know, I hope you guys are finding this as inspirational as I am. I'd love to hear some of you military guys come in and talk about this, how this is hitting you. You know what I mean? Just hearing the legacy that you come from. You know what I'm saying? So let's just continue checking this out. I'll put the link in the chat room soon, but I want to make sure it's up there now. You know, it's up there now, so you guys come in, but I want to make sure I finish this. On November 8, 1965, then Specialist 5 Lawrence Joel and his battalion of paratroopers were sent on patrol for the Viet Cong soldiers near Bien Ho, War Zone D in South Vietnam. Conducting Operation Hump, they shortly found themselves in a Viet Cong ambush. Remember, you out there in the middle of the jungle, right? You out here in the middle of the jungle. This is not an open field battle. You are surrounded by jungle. Anybody who's ever walked in, you can barely see right? From one hand to the next, right? Depending on how far you are, you got mosquitoes, you got insects, you got all kind of stuff going, snakes, everything you can't see. And then on top of that, the Vietnamese had dug trenches, not even trenches, they literally dug holes in the ground, and they had a tunnel system going underneath, the battlefield. So they would pop up and disappear. You got people popping up everywhere. So for them to get ambushes, this was par for the course. This is jungle warfare, which is why it was guerrilla warfare. If you look at some of the old movies, you talk to your relatives who fought, like, man, it was just, the enemy could be everywhere at the same time. But anyway, they shortly found themselves in a Viet Cong ambush, outnumbered 6-1. Under heavy gunfire, Joel did his duty as a medic, administering first aid to wounded soldiers. Joel defied orders to stay on the ground and risk his life to help the many wounded soldiers. Nearly every soldier in the lead squad was either wounded or killed in battle. Every soldier. Wow. Even after being shot twice, once in the right thigh and once in the right calf, Joel continued to do his job. He shot and he bleeding out and he trying to save other people. This is who this man was. He bandaged his wounds and continued. He healed his own damn wounds. He bandaged his wounds and continued to help wounded, and not only his unit, but in a nearby company as well. When his medical supplies were depleted, he hobbled around the battlefield for more using a makeshift crush. And see, here's what you got to understand. He ran out of supplies. So he's literally out there putting together old rags and stuff like that, trying to stop people from bleeding. He's already been shot twice. You see what I'm saying? At the point when you get shot, he probably going home. I could just lay down and get up out of here. I don't have to do anything else. But he didn't. He kept trying to save his fellow soldiers. He kept on his job. He didn't just lay down. When his medical supplies were depleted, he hobbled around the battlefield for more using a makeshift crutch. He couldn't walk at this point, right? So he had to get a makeshift stick or something. I don't know what it was. While SP4 Randy Eckhoff ran ahead of him and provided covering fire. So you got a dude walking ahead of you, providing cover fire while you down on the ground trying to get your people back together, patch them back up to get them off the field. Eckhoff was later awarded the Silver Star and Purple Heart for his actions. Joel attended to 13 troops and saved the life of one soldier who had severe chest wound by improvising and placing plastic bag over soldier's chest in order to seal the wound until the supplies were fresh. So basically what he's telling you is if somebody ever gets shot and they got a hole in them, right? What you do is you get a potato chip bag or something like that. You just slap that on there, right? And what that does is it prevents the blood from escaping. Now, if you could get some tape, duct tape that down, that'll hold them. Because what happens when you get shot like that, you bleed out. So if you can prevent the bleeding from happening, you can stop the blood from coming out. You can give them some more time so they can get some real medical treatment. So that's what he did after being shot twice his damn self. After the firefight, which lasted over 24 hours. See, Joel was hospitalized and shipped to locations, including Saigon, Tokyo, to recover. Shortly after he received the silver activity. Here's what you got to understand. 24 hours. On the movies, they show you it's a shootout. It lasts like 10 or 15 minutes. Everybody run home. 24 hours, constantly getting shot at, ducking, getting shot, people moaning, dudes peeing on themselves, dudes defecating on themselves, screaming, moans. And at night, you got to be quiet and suck it up. You bleeding out. 24 hours. This is what he dealt with. So on March 9th, 1967, on the White House lawn, President Lyndon B. Johnson presented Joel with the Medal of Honor for his service in the Vietnam War. His citation reads as follows: for conspicuous gallantry, intrepidity, can't say that word, at risk of his life above and beyond the call of duty. SP6, Joel demonstrated an indomitable courage, determination, professional skill when he numerically superior and well-concealed Viet Cong element launched a vicious attack which wounded or killed nearly every man in the lead squad of the company. After treating the men wounded by the initial burst of gunfire, he bravely moved forward to assist others who were wounded while proceeding in their while proceeding to their objective. While moving from man to man, he was struck in the right leg by a machine gun fire. Although painfully wounded, he desired to aid his fellow soldiers. His desire to aid his fellow soldiers transcended all personal feeling. He bandaged his own wound and self-administered morphine and deadened the pain, enabling him to continue his dangerous undertaking. Through his period of time, he constantly shouted words of encouragement to all around him. Keep fighting, man. You know, can you imagine that? Then completely ignoring the warnings of others and his pain, he continued to search for wounded, exposing himself to hostile fire. And as bullets dug up the dirt around him, he held plasma bottles high while kneeling, completely engrossed in his life-saving mission. So they shooting all around him, and he could easily get shot. He don't care. He trying to save lives. This is what this man did. This is what he did. Then after being struck a second time and with a bullet lodged in his thigh, he dragged himself over the battlefield and succeeded in treating 13 more men before his medical supplies ran out. Now you think that's it, right? Medical supplies ran out. That's it. No. Displaying resourcefulness, he saved the life of one man by placing a plastic bag over his severe chest wound to congeal the blood. As one of the platoons pursued the Viet Cong, an insurgent force in concealed positions opened fire on the platoon and wounded many more soldiers. With a new stock of medical supplies, SP6 Joel again shouted words of encouragement as he crawled through an intense hail of gunfire to the wounded men. After the 24-hour battle subsided, the Viet Cong dead number 410. Snipers continued to harass the company. Throughout the long battle, SP6 Joel never lost sight of his mission. So the fight is about 50 to 40. It's about 50 men to about 410. They had about 410 men surrounding them, and they fought 24 hours and made it out of there. A lot of people died, but a lot more would have died had it not been for SP6 Joel. He never lost sight of his mission as a medical aid man and continued to comfort and treat the wounded until his own evacuation was ordered. I'm ordering you to get out of there. His meticulous attention to duty saved a large number of lives, and his unselfish, daring example under most adverse conditions was an inspiration. Sergeant Joel's profound concern for his fellow soldiers at the risk of life above and beyond the call of duty and the highest traditions of the U.S. Army reflect great credit upon himself and the armed forces. Wow. So they gave him a parade. It was the first time the city had ever held a military parade to recognize a single individual to honor Lawrence Joel. He grew up on the east side of the city, predominantly African-American section of Winston-Salem. I'm telling you, man, they got something going on, and there's something in the water down in them Carolinas, man. Y'all got some good soldiers coming out of there. The New York Times called it the biggest tribute the city had ever staged. He retired from the service in 1973, and he died in 1984. And he's buried at Arlington National Cemetery, Section 46, Lot 15-1, adjacent to the Memorial Amphitheater. So these are our soldiers. This is just the first round. I'm going to take a quick break, and we'll be right back, and we'll continue with the next section. You guys know how this goes. We'll be right back.
Hey, what's up, everybody? If you appreciate what we're doing here, then make sure you contribute to the Cash App. Make sure you contribute to the PayPal. Make sure you donate to the Super Chat. It's only you and your contributions to keep this thing going. Thanks.
All right. So we are back, you guys. We are back again. We're back continuing talking about Black American men in the military, Vietnam War heroes. That said, the link is in the chat room. Anybody want to add anything? Hoorah to the members of the United States Army that are partaking this. Again, guys, I'm doing this for you. This is something that you all asked for, and I wanted to definitely, give you that. Big shout out to Rock One, DJ Twice. Thank you so much for the contribution. Thank you so much. I appreciate that. And I want to also give a big shout out to DJ Twice, 609. Thank you, Kenneth Williams. He says this is important content, bro. I believe so, man. I think we need an influx. And I want to also give a big shout out to Black masculinity, and it's available to us. All we have to do is look at our heroes. We don't have to just. I mean, yeah, we appreciate Malcolm X, Martin Luther King, and all those spiritual leaders. But what about the war fighters? Why can't we uplift the war fighters? What's wrong with little black boys wanting to grow up and be warriors? Why do we have to always look up to the rappers and the ball players? What about the warriors? Let's go ahead and start putting it in their face. Son, this is what this man did. This is what that man did. Look what they did. And see, here's the thing. They were awarded the Medal of Honor because they risked their lives, but it's a lot of other black men who did a lot of amazing things, and they came home safe and sound. Unfortunately, these men made the ultimate sacrifice. But the way in which they did it, they didn't do it cowering, hiding. They fought and they died like men are supposed to, standing next to a man that they call brother. This is what they did. And so this is nothing but admirable. This is something that men have been doing for thousands of years, fighting the night, fighting and dying next to their brothers, but more important, fighting for what they believe in. So, and often that's the camaraderie that they have with the man next to them. But either way, JJ Diesel, Cowboy Monk, man, what would you like to add to this conversation, bro?
I just thank you for having me. And I just want to add thanks to all the veterans that fought, especially the black veterans.
Yeah.
And I want to mention my father, James W. Smith Sr. I'm a junior. Mm-hmm. He was in the Signal Corps in Germany for 18 months. And my uncle, he was in the Army. Signal Corps, they're responsible for communication and sending codes and stuff like that, radio contact. And then my uncle, he was in the Army. He survived a helicopter crash due to enemy fire that caused it to crash, but he survived. And they buried him this past Saturday at 12 o'clock.
Well, I mean, don't forget his contribution, man. That's all I'm saying. But these are some amazing stories, man. Devin, what do you think about that first brother, man? They shot his legs. He got his legs bombed, but he kept fighting. The arm thrown off, he kept fighting. And then came back in. I just find that heroism is amazing. What do you?
That's the heart of a real warrior, my brother. He resigned himself to the inevitability of death, and he went out like a man. He didn't cower. He didn't run away and let other people and then go die in a hospital. He's like, if I'm going to die, if I got one arm left, all he had was one arm left, man. You got one arm left. I'm going to shoot with that. I'm going to fight with that, man. You got to take your hat off to a man like that, man.
Yeah, man. I appreciate this, and I hope you guys appreciate this. We need more strong black men, to pattern ourselves after.
That's right.
And see, we need an influx. It's hard to even speak to brothers sometimes. They're so emotional with, everything is a matter of life and death. You see what I mean?
Yeah.
And it's like, don't take it so personal. I mean, and if you really want to see what masculinity is, go get your legs shot off. Go get shot. And you keep pushing forward because you have duty and honor to your fellow war buddies, right? To your fellow battle buddies right there. You're not
let it be. Yeah.
You see what I'm saying?
Yeah. Don't let it be whatever on the battlefield.
Right. I'm not gonna leave my battle buddy hanging right now. I know I'm injured, but I'm not gonna go away. So I'm gonna fight till they stayed in the fight. That's a lesson that transcends the battlefield. That's life. Stay in the fight. Yeah. Never quit. Never give up. It doesn't matter if it hurts. You stay in the fight and you finish what you started. And you don't leave your guys hanging. They got to carry you out on a body bag, unconscious. You stay in the fight. That's part of it. What being a man is. It's not abandoning them. And yeah, you heard what he said. Keep fighting. He kept encouraging them. I'm sure there was some cuss words in there. We're not going to let these MFers be blah, blah, blah. You get back. Yeah. Exactly. Encouragement. Because sometimes men falter under pressure, but you keep pushing them. I don't care if they don't like it. I don't care if they're angry. You keep pushing. And guess what happened? Guess what happened, Devin? They won.
Yeah.
They won against all odds. What are your thoughts, man?
Victory, man. I mean, you got to take your hat off to that, and to see that so many brothers. Thank you for bringing this to the surface, man.
Yeah.
I had an uncle that fought in Germany in World War II, and he was a dark-skinned brother, man. And he told me that he had severe PTSD, but he said that they would always call him when it was time to arrest the Nazi officers, right? Because it was especially insulting to them to have a black man, a literate black man, arresting them, slapping the cuffs on them, and putting the cuffs on them for real, man. And the thing is, we can't be denied of our patriotism, right?
But we can't forget about it.
We can't forget about it.
And see, that's why I don't want to forget about it. I want to. This is the blood and the sweat and the tears that black men have contributed. Because see, if you remember the series that I did when I talked about the black brothers that have been fighting since the Revolutionary War, we were in manacles, but at the same time, we had rifles defending this country. And see, that's the part that I want everybody to remember. Yeah, you know what? You did have us enslaved, but you also gave us guns to fight and defend this country. So yeah, a lot of us were enslaved and a lot of us were working on it, but we also had rifles. So the next time one of these white folks say something like, oh, well, you know what? And we fought on both sides of the V. So next time one of them says, oh, my ancestors had you enslaved. Yeah, my ancestors probably shot some of your ancestors too.
Yeah.
You see what I'm saying? You remember that. You give them that smoke. You say, yeah, because my ancestors fought on both sides of it. So your ancestors, yeah, revolution, Civil War, yeah, my ancestors probably shot some of you and shot and killed some of your ancestors. You remember that. You give them that and you let them walk away with that. And, right. And then if they need some more, yeah, that's because we fought in the Civil War and the Revolutionary War. And I'm sure you got some relatives from England and Scotland and Ireland. And we were shooting on behalf of the army. I mean, we were shooting on behalf of the colonies and shooting on behalf of the King of England. So my ancestors probably shot some of your ancestors. How about that? Yeah. You think about, so we even, we good. We good.
And if you're a white American, you got relatives in the North and the South too.
Yeah. We put a few bullets in y'all. You good. So if they want to be nasty and bring that up, you give them some reality. But either way, man, thank you, JJ Diesel, Cowboy Monk. Thank you, Devin Lockett. I want to acknowledge the families of Sergeant Webster, Sergeant Ashley, Sergeant Bryant, and Sergeant Joel. Thank you for your contribution and your sacrifice that your family made. I hope this video goes on, and people, when they Google these names, they will see these gentlemen, they will see their contributions, they will hear the story. I hope I gave them life. You know, we said we talk about our ancestors, they come back to us. We need some warrior spirit right now. We need some of these warrior spirits to come back to the black community, especially in the black men, because we're not doing what we should be doing right now as men. We need some warriors back. We need some of that warrior spirit. I can't call on Shaka Zulu, okay? I can't quite call on Hannibal, but I know I can call on Sergeant Webster Anderson and Eugene Ashley and Sergeant Bryant and Sergeant Joel, because those are my people from my line, from my tribe. Matter of fact, they from Carolina. They from the same place my mom and them was from. Up in North Carolina, made their way down to Mississippi. They from where I'm from. Back in 1808, I did my research. They King Plantation in the Carolinas or Virginia. I think it's Virginia actually, the same damn place. But what I'm saying is, family, this is our heritage. Let's not let it die. Let's keep it alive. I'm gonna put it in your face. Y'all know Uncle D bring it to you. You don't have to like what I say. I don't care if you like it or not. I'm gonna put it in your face. But either way, God bless you, fellas. Thank you so much. Thank you again, all the military men out there, man. I hope y'all appreciate this, man. Other than that, man, this is Uncle D. I'll see you tomorrow. We'll be back with part 2 tomorrow. Y'all make sure y'all chime in. And if you appreciate this, you know it ain't gonna be more than 20 or 30 people in here. Make sure you contribute to the Super Chat, the Cash App, or the PayPal once this thing goes off. But either way, thank you, JJ. Thank you, Devin. I'll see you guys tomorrow. I'm out.
Peace, man.